Sensitivity is intelligence. With grace and skill, you have abundance. Welcome to the Psychic Hour. Host Kelly Brickle is a psychic medium healer, numerologist, and teacher. Her passions are learning about the soul and energy. Whether it's through spirit, emotion, or vibrational numbers, there's always a pathway of information waiting to help. Now, here is your host of the Psychic Hour, Kelly Brickle.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Psychic Hour on WLTKDB Let's Talk Radio. It is another Wednesday, and so that means it's the interview series, and we are all set to have Maria Celeste Provenzano Cook coming in just a moment. And yeah, it's always lovely to have return guests. They're friends with the show. They're wonderful at what they do. I mean, she's such a multifaceted individual. And I really want to dive into that when she's here today because, there is, I think like more and more, I think it's being dispelled, but there's like a misconception if like you're spiritual, you have to live like this very Zen spiritual life. And, obviously it used to be black and white, where some people would even think like, oh, like, you go to a cave and you're always like meditating and stuff. And it's like, no, it's like, you're just living a full life. You're living a full life, a present life, an active life. And you are having this bravery of the soul where you are in your truth. And so I think Maria Celeste is a fantastic example of that because she has done so much stuff in her life, fully, meeting life and its adventures along the way. And so I think, yeah, that's something that we can touch upon today. Like, when we are living a spiritual life, like, what does that mean? And I always say, like, the spirit presupposes the physical. So spirit created the physical. So if you're out and about and you are trying things, if you are, shaping your goals, if you are living life in a way where it doesn't always have to have, like I said, the 100%, but you're having the aim of your arrow of, I think I'd like to try something like this. In my heart, I've always wanted to do that. And if you're making footsteps towards that, and you're asking for help greater than yourself, to just trust in, I don't know how it's going to happen, or I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I think I'm supposed to do that, to do this. That's spirit-led. That is a spiritual life. And we all have stuff like that within our life, whether we always wanted to travel. That's a common one. Or maybe always wanted to take a class, but maybe we don't have enough time or have enough money. Well, it can be spirit-led to manifest that 100%. I mean, it has to be. It's in your heart. It's something that's longing. I wish I could, wouldn't it be nice? Well, yeah. And whether it takes a week for you to make that decision, a month or a year, you're going to cultivate the energy to have that, whether it's just the resources, the mindset, the tenacity, the bravery. You're going to cultivate that energy and those resources to get that. And we can't possibly know all the ways that are going to break our chains. The reason I'm saying that is because, sometimes we're caged by our fear. We're caged by maybe ancestrally what we've been taught to believe, what we think we are, what holds us back, or what our struggles or our trials and tribulations are. But we are made to break free of that. I really do feel that in my heart and soul. And we can't possibly know all the keys to unchain ourselves of our limitations. And that's where spirit comes in. That's where, like, forever, I really respect everyone's belief system, whether it's God, the divine, the universe, spirit, how you conceptualize things on a personal level. So I have my beliefs and experiences, and I have you know, my own connection to my spirituality, but everyone has different experiences within their spirituality. So whatever it is, whoever you connect to, you know, that is the intelligence bigger than yourself that will give you that nudge, signs, symbols of go that way. Or you have to listen to us like this if you want more information, if you want more help. And that's like the great, you know, divine orchestration of how we flow together to create heaven on earth, how we flow together to merge with the truth of what actually is, because what actually is greater than ourselves. Whether it's something, you know, beautiful or fearful, you know, we are greater than just ourselves. And so that's why anything we go, oh, I'm not sure about this, should I do that, should I do this, the perfect solution is getting out of your own head, getting out of the fear of your own hearts and into something greater than yourself. And there's just many avenues to that. For people who don't know like what that looks like, what that feels like, I think a really good way to kind of feel in the energy greater than oneself is to be a part of something that's selfless. Whether you're volunteering, whether you are putting your efforts into a cause that you believe in, you start to see how the efforts of not just yourself, but the efforts of something greater starts to change the result, change the once perceived limitations that were on the table for other people. But when people come together and they're like, this is important, I'm here for a reason, this is the right thing to do, or I'm supposed to help, suddenly our circumstances are transformed. So yeah, that's the power of sometimes events, charities. That's the power of sometimes friendships, right? When you have enough synergy at hand and it's positive energy and you're lifting each other up, you know, circumstances do change. And you know, spirit is like the ultimate I think, source of that. But when we get many people together for many group intentions, you can kind of see a sparkle and shine of that too. But that's that. Those are my thoughts to you that I'm sharing. Whether you don't know where to start or whether you do have an idea, I think it's important to go, all right, I'm playing all out. You don't always have to be risky when you play out. You just go, I'm writing something down. This is how I'm aiming my arrow. My spirit, my heart, my soul, it needs to do this. And I'm going to figure out a way to do this. And the rest will follow. And to have not only the faith of it, but just the promise to yourself. If there is a hurdle or a difficulty within the journey, lessons will come up to make sure you still complete the journey. And whether or not it's easy or difficult, you will grow. And so whether or not it looks like what you're going to get, whether or not you're confident in what you're aiming for, you are creating a journey for yourself. You know, people go often like, oh, you know, like if only, you know, if only I had something like that I was working. I don't have really anything I'm working on. The same old, right? Just going through the motions. And it's just like, give yourself a journey. Give yourself, and if it's too outlandish, the journey will show the way, right? And you're pushing yourself, or spirit is pushing you to make sure you complete the steps of the journey. And I promise you, like if you put that out there, the way will show itself, and your life will not be the same day to day, whether in a small way or in a drastic way. If you want to change your life, you make a goal and you see it come to fruition, right? You guide it to fruition, and your life and your spirit and your knowledge of how things work outside of you, that's when the light bulbs really start going off. That's when you're living a spiritually led life. So trust yourself, trust your heart, trust your soul. That's something that I just want to share with you in another facet. You know, I like to talk about that. And we'll be back in just a moment. We're going to take a break and bring Maria Celeste on. So thank you. See you in a few.
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK DB Talk Radio at WLTKDB.com.
Hello and welcome back. So I just want to say hello to Chris and like Stephanie, Charlie, hello. We're going to be taking questions towards the end of talking and just going wherever naturally led within talking with Maria. And so if you have a question about a subject, like pop it down. So we're not doing readings today, but a subject about whatever we're talking about, whether it's psychic mediumship, crystals, healing, it will come up naturally and you can just ask away. So without further ado, I love how my lamp just appeared. Of course it did, right? Shine a light on a situation. Without further ado, I want to bring in Maria Celeste and say hello to her. And hi, Maria.
How are you?
I'm doing great. I want to introduce you. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Good. You're doing as ever. Good. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you too.
I'm doing great.
I want to just share that Maria Celeste is a psychic medium, teacher through LWISSD, an ordained minister, the founder of the Center for Creative Healing. The Center for Creative Healing. I was overthinking that because I kept saying it wrong last time. So the Center of Creative Healing, Creative Healing Dance, Gems by Celestial Dancer. Gosh, all these beautiful businesses. The author of What I Did to Heal Through Cancer, Chemotherapy and Radiation, Alternative Therapies, Crystals, and more. And my goodness, you are a woman of so many different talents. Welcome again. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. It's just because I've been here on my journey a long time.
Well, I wanted to talk about that. You know, I know you've lived in like different countries, you've had different jobs,
right.
And
yeah.
to talk about that, like from, I guess, an overall perspective, like what was one of your first jobs and why were you led there?
Well, I mean, one of my first jobs was when I was 13 years old and I wanted, this is very funny. It's funny you bring this up. I didn't understand. My dad was a professional. He was a world-renowned pediatrician. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, 8 kids, but she did a lot of volunteer work. And she would come home and she'd say, Bill, I bought this for you. Bill was my dad's name. I bought this for you. And I'm like, Mom, how can you buy things for Dad with his money? So I, as a young child, I had a hard time getting my head around that. So at the age of 13, I had my own jewelry business. I was like, I need my own money. So yeah, and I made $158 that summer, which that was just not yesterday. So it was like yesterday. We won't go there. and then I lied about my age when I was 15 so I could go to work. Back then you could get away with it. And I worked in the meat department. And, you know, back then I probably looked like I was 2. But I worked in the meat department on Cape Cod because I wanted to be self-sufficient. So those were a couple of my very first jobs. And then I waitressed through college. By the grace of God, my parents paid for college. But I had to pay for my books and any vacations or anything I wanted to do. And then I went to graduate school and I worked for Price Waterhouse. And the 4-digit zip code after the 5-digit zip code, I was one of the 18 people that helped write that. I probably was more of a supporter because I wasn't really good in writing, you know, zeros and O's. There were other people in the group that were better at that than I was. So that's something else I did.
Can you share that? I'm not familiar. Go ahead.
Okay, so there was 18 of us right out of graduate school. Price Waterhouse hired 18 management consultants out of graduate school to work on the expansion of our zip codes.
Oh.
And yeah, so you've got the 5-digit zip code and you've got the 4-digit zip code, which actually specifies the home in which the 5-digit zip code is. Today, not many people use the 4-digit zip code, but we at Price Waterhouse were given that for the United States government, or United States Postal Service, to write the code for the Master Post Service, which was in St. Louis. I'm not sure if it's even in St. Louis still. And so it was a crazy project. And there was 18 of us that actually worked, and we had to use the computers like at midnight to 8, Price Waterhouse's computers. And the two managing, they weren't partners yet, but they were the managers on it. There was 2 women, and they were the first 2 women to be made partners at Price Waterhouse.
Wow.
Yeah. It was an experience. Yeah.
Because that's a major firm. Yeah,
it's not Price Waterhouse anymore. They've all the big 8s have all merged and everything. And then from there, I went to Cabot and worked in a management consultant area there and got married and ended up back in finance with my master's in finance and accounting, and worked for Morgan Stanley. It was Smith Barney and then Morgan Stanley for about 25 years until we retired.
So, okay, so you got your master's in financing. Did you always feel like, okay, accounting, that's part of my path? How did you evolve into that? I'm curious.
Yeah, it's really funny. I started out pre-med.
Wow.
When I went to Newton College, it was Newton College of the Sacred Heart when I started there. And I was pre-med. And one day, and I was a straight A student in pre-med, but one day it was like 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm in the lab and I'm like, if I don't get into medical school, I do not want to spend the rest of my life in a lab. Literally, that went through my head at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I told my dad and I said, I'm gonna change my major. And my professors were furious because this was in my sophomore year. And I went into psychology and philosophy. And so then I decided I was going to go to graduate school, and I thought I would be an industrial psychologist and do plant layouts and everything. But when I got there, I fell in love with finance. I fell in love with it. I actually ended up helping my professor. There's somewhere in Dr. Viscioni. I'm one of the students that he says actually helped him write this finance book.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I fell in love with finance, which is really interesting if you look from the psychic and the metaphysical standpoint, which we often do, you and I do. If you look at a second generation back, you will see where there's a skill that comes in. But when I was a little girl, my mother always managed my dad's money, or the family money. Sorry, Mom, the family money, because Dad was busy doing what he loved and he never worried about it. Mom took care of all of it. So I got some exposure from that. And when we played Monopoly, I loved being the bank. I didn't want to play Monopoly. I loved being the banker. It was the funniest thing. But my grandmother, which would have been 2 generations back, she was, and at the time they were called bookkeepers, she was the major bookkeeper for a large department store in Providence, Rhode Island. And I just think, oh my God, that's where my love for finance comes, not only my mom, but also from my grandmother.
And when you say that you love a love for finance, is it the love of organization, numbers, the love of, being able to help bring clarity through management? Like what about it are you like, this skill in which I help people, it makes me so happy?
Well, in terms of what I did for the people that I worked for, my clients, by the grace of God, I loved helping them manifest their dreams by managing their finances.
Awesome.
And to this day, it's going to make me cry. To this day, I will still get calls from some of my clients. And now I've been out of that business since 2009, May 21st, 2009. My husband retired and I said, you're not leaving without me. So I'm retiring too. I actually had to quit because I wasn't able to retire, but we both retired. Technically, I didn't retire, but to this day, still 12 years later, 13 years later, I get calls from clients that call me to say, thank you. Because of you, we have left a legacy for our great grandchildren, or we've been able to retire. And it just warms my heart. And they said, you're the only broker. They're not called brokers anymore. You're the only broker that made us money. And I said, isn't that what we're supposed to do? I was just doing my job and I loved doing it. I loved doing it. And a lot of people would ask me, did you use your psychic and psychic skills in doing the business and you know, what stocks to buy, what stocks? And I didn't. I never abused my gift that way. I'm sure somewhere way back then, there was maybe a little bit of a trance kind of feeling. And I knew, yes, we should buy this or
yeah, for sure.
I'm sure
it wasn't, though.
It was never consciously. I never consciously would do that. Because it wasn't my.
Do you feel though you were guided to like just look certain places like, oh, I never thought, like, you know, if you're trying to help your client and you're like, actually, I just thought of an idea, you know, like things like that.
Well, probably yes, because I'm looking around trying to feel, but as you're watching and looking what's going on in society and knowing and spirit giving me different things to be aware of, then I would look for different investments for my clients based on different things I was feeling about. Where are we going? What's happening? Like when I was over in Turkey, I went on a pilgrimage in Turkey. And as I'm in the bus taking us from the airport to our hotel, I'm looking out on their ports, and there's days of ships waiting to get into these ports. And I went, there's an investment here. And then we went deeper into the country. So my mind was always, as we went deep, and this is, I'm on holiday, as we go deeper into the country, there's building going on and there's all kinds of construction. And I'm like, I need to find an investment for this. So when I got back to the country, Morgan Stanley happened to have the Turkish fund. And I called up my clients and said, I just got back from Turkey. You need to be, it's been dissolved. You need to be, so I'm not recommending this to your listeners. You need to, and I looked into the fund and I was like, we need to buy this. And so we would buy it and you could trade it. You know, you look at, I not only was a technical analyst in terms of how I did investments, I was also a theorist and an understanding of the actual financial analyst side. So I blended both the technical and the financial analyst in making a decision of when to buy and sell stocks. So we traded the heck out of that stock until it was dissolved. Yeah, but you have to be aware of what's going on in your environment to know where the investments are.
Yeah. I think like overlapping concepts, you have to be present and aware, right? Yeah. In order to truly help, right? Yeah. And to have your spirit come alive and just be like, hey, there's an opportunity here. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It wasn't until about 2 years after we retired that I realized, oh my God, that was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Literally, it was a nonstop employment. I mean, you were always on, worrying about your clients' money, worrying about their investments, worrying about where's the next opportunity? How do I take advantage of this for my clients? And I was raised in a family. I was always taught, you do what you love. You don't chase the money, you do what you love. And I am so grateful for that, because in taking care of, I'm a caregiver, and in taking care of my clients, not only did their money come, but my money came. And I am so grateful for all of my clients, for the opportunity to serve them in allowing them to manifest their dreams by taking care of their money. It was a huge gift, and it was a huge blessing for what I did.
Well, not only did like your job lead you to Turkey, but you actually like physically lived there for how many years did you live in Turkey?
I lived there I fell in love with Turkey, and I was like, as I'm looking around, I'm going, someday I'm going to live here. Someday I'm going to live here. And then when I came home, I told my mother I was going to live there. And she said, when you were a little girl, you were mesmerized. She used to smoke Camel cigarettes. You were mesmerized by the fact that it said Turkish blend. And on the back, there were the pyramids. And you were like, that's Egypt. This is Turkish. They don't match. I would be obsessed with, Mom, talk to me about Turkey. Talk to me about Turkey. Talk to me about Turkey. So I think I had a past life there. But I lived there for 3 years. And I know you were talking earlier to your audience about how you need to sometimes step out and trust when you step out. And what came to mind as you were talking about that is, for your audience, if they watched Indiana Jones, when it has to step out and it's like 200 miles to nowhere, and he remembers you have to step out in faith, he steps out and the plank comes out. And to me, that is a perfect example about stepping out in faith, and knowing in what you said, Kelly, that the universe, if the universe nudges you and you overcome your fears, the universe is there to support you and to give you what you need when you need it, when you step out and follow your intuition, your higher self, your soul path. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I do think so. Yeah. Like a lot of people, sometimes they don't believe it because they're going through, let's say, a step on the path where they put out their foot and it causes them to break down. And sometimes you need to be crying or breaking down, or like everything's going wrong. And then you muster the awareness to go, I know what to do, even in this, when I'm feeling like this, or now I see it, I have to keep going.
Yeah. The dark night of the soul will get you to where your soul wants you to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one thing I would say to your audience is embrace the dark night of the souls, because in embracing that and not being fearful of being there, it's one of the most rewarding places you could possibly go because of what opens up. It's like the fire. It's like the phoenix coming out of the fire. So yeah. I wouldn't suggest you go looking for them, though.
No, it's just the dark night of soul is not a fun time, but you're right. It's a very important and extraordinary time because you really, you let go of who you were. Yeah. 'Cause you're like, this isn't working for me. So it's like, yeah, it's not working for you so much. Like, that everywhere you turn, maybe you are not getting enough money that you need. You're not getting the relationships that you need. You're not getting the attention and love that you need, or your health is a mess. And it's just like, so you can't be that anymore. So let's try something else. Or you can't be this anymore. So is all this real? What's really real?
Yeah.
Right. And you start getting to the truth of, okay, what's really going on here? And let's get into the truth of what actually works for me now.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's when you become your authentic self.
And it's powerful. So it's like, embrace the breakdown, even though it's not fun.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But when I look back on the moments that was transforming in my life, it was moments of either really deep dark night of the soul or edges of dark night of the soul. And with each one, learning to embrace it, going, okay, I'm safe here, because you really don't feel safe when you go into those. Going, okay, I'm safe here. I can't push the outcome. I need to just journey through the outcome and let spirit guide me to where I need to be and when I need to be there, and truly surrendering and trusting to the path that's opening up before us and saying, yes, I'm safe being in the unknown, because it may be unknown to me, but to infinite source, God, Yahweh, Theos, whatever we choose to call that higher self, I just choose to call it God, an infinite source, infinite wisdom, all in one, that there's a safety in that. When you surrender and trust, knowing that you're safe in the unknown, it's an excitement. There's a newness. And your soul there's physical feeling that comes over when you know that you're doing the right thing, even though you don't know what you're doing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember like you used to talk about like storm energy, you know, like the cyclone. And it's just like, you know, you find that you're safe in this, like the storm, right?
Yeah.
And then, you know, you can put your foot out and the storm will come with you rather than the storm is, you know, tearing you apart, right?
Right.
When in your life did you have to call upon, you know, that tremendous state of faith when you were transitioning your life? Did you always have comfortability and feeling you had flexibility in your career? Was it in another area of your life?
Well, I go back to a couple of things because I'm hearing two questions there. One is how long have I had this faith? By the grace of God, I was born into two very faith-driven parents. My father wasn't sure whether he was going to become a Jesuit or an MD.
Oh,
and
wow.
he thought he could best serve his family by becoming an MD. But he was a very religious, very spiritual man. And so was my mother. And growing up very Catholic, very Italian. So my faith, a lot of, even my family says, where does your faith come from? And I truly, I think in observing my parents and knowing what my parents did and how they did it and watching my dad work, knowing that there was a higher source. So I was exposed to not only my religion, but I was exposed to two people that lived their life in faith, truly in faith. And it was really interesting that, you know, as a young girl, my mother would be, come on, we're going to the convent. I need to ask for some prayers. And she would knock and the nun would open this little box, but they couldn't come out. And she would hand them this little paper of what you needed to pray for because she had 8 crazy kids, right? And so that I was just exposed to, you know, when we all went and sat in the first pew, 8 kids lined up and my parents were there. But I saw not only were they, you know, good Catholics and going to church every day, and we would pray the rosary on Wednesday nights, but the way that they lived and how my dad took care of his patients and how my mother took care of friends and the givingness and knowing that they just didn't live their religion, they lived their faith. And so as a young girl, I would say, I'm going upstairs to pray. Does anybody want to come with me? And my grandmother would say, come on, I'll go with you. And so I have vivid memories of my grandmother and I kneeling at my bed every night. And I prayed every night, whatever, you know, whatever. And my prayers today are, they're probably still as simple as they were then. So the faith was just, Kelly, always in me. In terms of, I think I forget the second part of the question.
Yeah, so part of that question was like, maybe your faith is in you, but something about your faith is tested because you've never, I guess, gone through that lesson before, right? What, you know, you know you're going to be okay, or maybe you're just so scared and you're like, I don't know what to do. How did you get through certain transitions within your job or in your health or in your family, and you're like, I don't know what to do here? How did that intermission period of the dark night of the soul happen, and then you transitioned out of it with faith?
Well, as you ask that question, it's interesting because I normally don't cough, so I'm coughing on something. It's interesting. I'll have to think about that. But what comes to my mind is to talk about when I lived in Turkey, I lived in Gölcük. And for any of you who know, the earthquake that was a 7.8, 7.9 earthquake back in 1998, it was epicentered in Gölcük.
Wow.
And yeah. And I just happened to not be there when it happened. I literally came home because of my mom.
Wow.
My mom was diagnosed with cancer. And in April, she called me and she said, Maria, I want you to know I was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. And I said, Mom, I'll be on the next plane home. She said, no, I don't need you to come home. You're coming home this summer to be with the Dalai Lama anyway. I said, just come home then. And I said, are you sure? Because I'll get on the next plane. She said, no. So I left the day before the earthquake. And so that morning, my brother gets a phone call from a mutual friend of ours and said, "Where's your sister?" And he said, "Why?" He said, "Because there was a major earthquake in Gilgit." And he said, "Well, she just arrived home last night," literally just hours before the earthquake hit. So when my whole life was, I mean, here's my apartment building. It's been condemned. The whole city around me is like, it was great. And so I didn't, at that point in time, because I was just saying it was like a dark night. So I didn't know what I was going back to. I didn't know when I was going back to. I didn't know if I could go back to it. And it was just, where am I going to? And so to just totally not push through it, to go, okay, I'm safe. Hopefully my apartment is safe. Hopefully the people I know are safe. And just, it was probably 3 months. And so because in the meantime, I mean, they lost Navy ships. Wow. Were the river there, or it was a sea ocean way. The Turkish Navy was there, and they lost a ship when it opened up. I don't know if they've ever been able to find it. So wow. That whole moment in time made me really have to step back, let go of my fear, because I didn't know what I was going to be doing. Literally did not know what I was going to be doing. My whole life was, here's the country I was living in, totally distraught, right in the town I was living in. I'm in America. My house is rented in Zionsville. And what am I going to do? But by the grace of God, I stayed with my mom. And then when I went back, it was like, okay, I couldn't live in the apartment building, which this is a really fun story. So the apartment building, I think you know this story, Kelly. I think I may have actually shared this in the Master Teacher program. So when I got back to the apartment, literally, and they're like, "You really shouldn't go into this apartment. It's been condemned." And I'm like, "Oh, that's okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay." And I'm literally walking, and I'm on the 5th floor. I'm literally walking over bricks. The bricks on the inside and the staircase. And I'm like, yeah, this is probably really not safe, right? And I always said to God, I said, because when trucks would go by, my building would shake. And I said, God, I do not want to be in this building if there's an earthquake. Well, I wasn't in the building when there was an earthquake. So when I opened up my apartment door, now, meanwhile, I've just walked up 4 flights of stairs over all these bricks and the stairs. And I open up my door. And there was one of my friends, one of my Islamic friends actually gave me gave me the Blessed Mother holding baby Jesus that said, "God bless this home." Wow. And it was right on the door, and literally it fell. So when I opened up that door, I either had to step on that plaque or step over it. When I walked into the house, most everything was in order, except for there was some plates that had fallen out, and the food in the refrigerator had gone bad because the electricity was out. And the one plate that I was very intent on in my bathroom, there was a glass plate, and I was very intent before I left that I had to fix that, and I had put my makeups and creams and stuff on it. That actually broke, and all my creams broke. And Spirit just sort of laughs at me and goes, "That's what you get for being anal, because you wanted to fix it before you left." And that's why. And that's literally, it broke like the morning that I was like going back to Istanbul to get the plane. And I'm like, nope, I have to get this fixed before I leave. But they had broken it. Had I not fixed it, all those creams would not have been broken. And I walked into the apartment and everything was in order. And then my neighbors knew that I was back in the building, and they climbed up over stuff. And she's like, "You need to see my apartment next door." So when on the floor, there's one apartment on the left, one apartment on the right. We opened up the doors, they would hit each other. She said, "Come next door and see my apartment." Of course, this was all in Turkish because they were Turkish. So I walk over. Oh my God. You could not believe what had happened. There were, the drapery was pulled out. She had just had the apartment painted too. The draperies were pulled out. The food from the refrigerator, it was worse than National Lampoon's, when they in the college, I forget the National Lampoon. the movie. Anyway.
Well, I didn't see that one. I wish I could help you, but I know of
National Lampoon where no, it's not Van Wilder. It's oh God, it's the guy that played in Ghostbusters is in it, and there's it's the food fights and everything, and it's
yeah.
And the food is literally all her china, all her crystal was broken. The food was there's mustard, there's ketchup, there's all kinds of stuff on the wall. The draperies are torn out. The furniture's all moved. Or Animal House. Yes, thank you, Todd. It's Animal House. Thank God. Right? Thanks, Todd. And like her apartment is totally destroyed, and nothing in my apartment other than the stuff that I had tried to fix was. And she's like, "How did that happen?" And I just said, I just held up this plaque that said, "God bless this house, protected by Mary and Jesus." So. And people, so this whole thing went around the neighborhood and everybody wanted to see my apartment because everybody's apartment was destroyed. And mine literally was, I mean, I slept in it. People couldn't sleep in their apartments. I was sleeping in my apartment until they're like, this building's condemned. You really should get out of it.
Right.
Yeah. So,
oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So that was just an amazing experience in terms of the difference, you know, and people said, how do you explain it? And I'd hold up the plaque and I literally, the plaque is bent because you could, where it fell off the wall, and it's crushed at the edge. And that plaque is very sacred to me because it's, you know, we're protected by something, as you said in your intro, we're protected by something bigger than us. And when we step into that and trust, it is always with us. It is always with us. And even if we're like, oh God, why is this happening to me? We really need to step back and say, what's the lesson in here? How can I become a better person? What am I being shown to help quicken my soul? Because as above, so below. So, yeah. And then I just have to laugh at myself going, really?
What do you feel like what you're shown to quicken your soul, does that always come in crystal clear for you, or have you been like, oh, I'm not sure about this, I'm not sure about this?
Yeah. And I always say, yeah, and I say often, okay, Lord, speak to me. So yeah, and I'm like, God knows, I'm like, if you really need me to know something, you need to take out a bulletin board, because I can be really stubborn and thick-headed. I talk to God, like my family would walk in and go, who are you talking to? I go, I'm talking to God. And they'd go, how do you talk to God? I'm like, the same way I talk to you. And they're like, well, what's God saying? And so this profound thing would come out of my mouth. And I'm like, God, I don't know what you just had me say, but they just ran out of the room. So, you know, so I just always talk to God. So I always would say to God, you need to give me a bulletin board. And this one time I was just getting into this work, doing this mediumship work. And so we went up to Camp Chesterfield, and the woman that was doing the trance, she actually gave me the name of my joy guide. And she said, your joy guide is Violet Sunshine. And being the little Catholic skeptic, I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. So, you know, and she's right over here. You can't see her, but I have a picture of her here because that same teacher actually did a picture just before she passed away for me.
Wow.
And so as that night, I'm with my girlfriend, and as we're getting up on the highway, Joan says to me, because she was in the seance with me, she said, do you see that 18-wheeler? Now, in the advertising business, 18-wheelers are called billboards because they're big. And in advertising, that's why you'll see trucks with painting on it, because they're billboards, because it's advertising. And literally, as we're coming up on the 69, this big 18-wheeler goes by, and on the side, in purple with a big sun, it says Violet, Violet Sunshine. And Joan and I look at each other, and she said, did you see that? And I'm like, yes, and I'm glad I was with you. So I have searched, is there a trucking company, Violet? And I could not find it anywhere. And I'm like, I came home and just said, okay, God, that was a billboard. I get it. Violet, Violet Sunshine is my joy guide. So when you look for the symbols and you trust that God's going to give you symbols and that the universe is here to support us, what Jesus told us in the scriptures is all natural law. when you step into trusting that and learning his teachings on how to use natural law for our benefit, everything he did, we can do. I still am trying to walk through that wall. I haven't been able to do it yet, though. It's the wall. It's probably why I'm a little crazy, but yeah.
I would imagine it's just like a different kind of skill, right, to work with, right? Like healing is a little different than mediumship. Same, all connected, but you know, you're working with the energy a little bit differently. So walking through that wall, maybe, you know, it's a little different.
Yeah, you got to get your frequency at the same frequency of the wall, and I haven't been able to figure that out yet. Because I believe you can do that. I truly believe that.
I believe it's possible to do it. Have you ever come across somebody who that's kind of like their focus in the energy work?
Well, it's interesting. One of my mentors, that he was a Dominican priest, and we were all. I said to him once, I said, "You and I both know that we can just get right over there without having to go and turn around here." And he just looked at me and laughed. But we were stuck in a room, and we were locked in this. We were doing this tour, and for some reason, the room got locked, and there was only this tiny little window in this cell to be able to get out into the courtyard to get to where we could open the door. And all of a sudden, Father Allen was on the other side of the door, and we're like, "How did he do that? There's no way." And all of a sudden he was on the other side of the door. We're like, there's no way he could have climbed up there. There wasn't a stair. There wasn't a chair. There was no way that he could have gotten up there. I mean, he was tall, but he wasn't. And none of us lifted him up there. And all of a sudden he's on the other side of the door. And I was just like, you need to teach me how you did that. Yeah. So it's crazy. And my dad, he was in the military, and he was in the Philippines, and he would talk about their psychic surgery. He said, "I've witnessed it." I said, "Dad, that's crazy." I said, "How did they do that?" He said, "It was a God-given gift to them because they didn't have medical people to be able to do the surgery. They knew they had to learn how to manipulate the energy so that they could do." He said, "I literally watched people put their hands in and pull out, whether it was a bad kidney or a bad tumor or whatever it was." He said, "It actually happened."
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
There was a psychic surgeon that used to come over from the Philippines, but, you know, got a little too crazy. And so it was, I think it was our government didn't want him to come over anymore. So he hasn't been, and this was 20, 30 years ago. I'm not even sure he's still on the earth plane.
I believe, I believe that psychic surgery is, I mean, it's just, you know, it's working with energy, right? And I think like in the past, sometimes you have people like, you know, trying to show that they're removing physical things, and then it became kind of like showmanship for some people, but for the actual act of it, it's all energy. And sometimes you can manipulate energy so much it can be physical, and that's when it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
And they had to do it because it was their only way to have any medicine treatment over there.
Yeah.
So, and to me, I always think, if there's a will, there's a way. If there's a will, there's a way. And if it's something you really want and you really have the will to do it, there will be a way to do it, which is what you were saying at the beginning of this show. There will be a way. If there is a will, there's a way.
Exactly. And hey, working on someone's body and, you know, going through a wall, you're transcending physical limitations. You're transcending physical matter. So yeah, it's kind of connected. It really is.
Yeah.
Or just like in general, what walls can we break or go through, right?
Yeah.
We gotta go through
Same concept. Exactly.
So how many, like, if I may ask, how many different times to you have you changed or redefined your identity, or have you been the same? That you feel, some people feel like, oh, I'm the same as I ever was, even though I did different things. And other people are like, I became a different person many different times before I felt I am who I am today and who you see now. What is your philosophy with that? How, you know, God has shaped you, how you've had many different career changes, life experiences. Yeah.
Well, I'm not even the same person I was yesterday, really. Not, because yesterday's experiences shaped me for what I am today. And I try to do a lot of internal work. I spend a lot of time in meditation. I spend a lot of time trying to be better and understanding the quickening of my soul and understanding my life's path, whatever that is, the fulfillment of my soul, and in service to my higher good, but in serving my higher good, serving God, because to serve God is to create as you were created. So, boy, I mean, I think the basic traits when I look at, and if you talk to my family, they'll tell you, even by the time my mother says I came out with a hat on my head, but my sister will say, Maria, from the time we knew you, you picked out your clothes at night. You would write a list about what you wanted to do the next day. And at the end of the day, you would check out the list and you'd go to bed at 6 o'clock. My mother said, we could set our clocks by Maria. She's in bed at 6 and up at 6, bed at 6 and up at 6. And I'm pretty much, so there are certain traits in me. I still make lists. I put well, not so much. No, I still put my clothes out at night. This is what I'm going to wear tomorrow. And my sister, oh my God, you did that when you were 1.5 years old. So I am still the same person. And I'm probably, if you talk to my family, I'm still a little stubborn. You know, I'm still a tomboy. I was pretty much a tomboy, but I grew up in a very male dominated household. So I'm a Leo, and, you know, we need to have our voice heard. So I could roar really loud in the family. But so those traits are still there. But I think I've tempered them. I've allowed my personality, my soul to evolve. I've always been spiritual. I studied world religions and psychology and philosophy undergraduate. I still study them. If you look around, there's all kinds of books learning about being one with nature and one with and understanding the reading the Bible to understand the parables that Jesus, and looking at the parables and applying them to natural law and going, that's what he taught us. That's my view. I really do believe he taught us that. So those basic traits are there. I've learned to be substantially more patient with myself. I've also learned to say no. There's been things in my life where it's like, you know what? I'm not doing that anymore. Or I've got really strong boundaries now, and you're not doing that to me anymore. So it's been my life's journey, my life's experiences that have made me what I am today. And today's, hopefully I'm going to be a better person tomorrow from what I've learned today. Or maybe I'll go backwards and then stumble and fall and try to pick up and become a little bit better. But I think the basic traits are always there. I think the basic traits are always there. And you just develop them. And life tempers you.
Yeah. How, to you, what is living a spiritual life in your eyes?
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you in everything you do. And to me, you know, you may be the only Bible people read. And even if you're in a crappy mood, try to at least give a smile to the person that you come across, or give a compliment. If truly, not just a compliment, but, you know, if there's a stranger on the street, my husband goes, oh my God, you just talked to everyone. I'm like, yeah, but I really liked your shoes. So as she's walking by, I'm like, I really like your shoes. You know, I have no trouble saying that to somebody and giving compliments that way. But one of the things I think is really nice to do is little random acts of kindness, because you never know. So, you know, for your audience out there, when you're like nudged, like because the person that's waiting in at the grocery store was the person next to the person in front of you wasn't very nice to them, you know, ask them what their favorite candy bar is and then buy it for them and give it to them. You know, some stores won't let you do that. You have to make sure that you can. But just little random acts of kindness, because we're all here to learn to love ourselves I really think love thy neighbor as thyself, I think, is one of the most important things we need to learn. And if we truly learn to love ourselves, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. That's where I think peace and love happens, right here. That will vibrate out, and there will be peace on earth. And I think it's important for us to do those little random acts of kindness and live a life of spirituality. And that's not being like quoting Bible and verse and then going home and beating the crap out of your kids. I mean, that is about truly treat each person as you want to be treated. Treat each person as you want to be treated. Do I always do that? Oh, heck no. Unfortunately, my Italian temper might come out. Ask my husband. But you just truly try to always be the kind of person you want the person to be to you. And that to me is leading a spiritual life. Do unto others as you would do unto them.
It's very...
Other people will say, they wear bracelets. What would Jesus do? It's the same concept. It's the same concept.
Yeah. It's very profound because, some of the things that we feel like that we're doing while we're doing it and we're like, oh, this is, I'm justified. And you just kind of think for a moment, well, no matter how justified I am, everything that I've been doing, would I be wanted to be treated that way? Yeah. Right? In my mission, in my, my fervor, in my passion of I'm doing the right thing. It's really interesting that way. I agree with that. So purely and deeply. Fiona talks about life is so much more peaceful when you learn to say no. And you were talking about how, as you've, life tempered you, you said, the more that you grew up and into who you are today, and you learned so many boundaries to say no. What is, if you may, an aha or a story that led you so, truly to go, I know how to say no in a different way now?
My life, for a health reason, was threatened. And I learned in order to take care of this, I needed to understand when mama ain't happy, nobody happy. If mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. And I realized what they were talking about. Yeah, right? You got to take care of this. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And that has truly been a journey to learn to love myself. And I've just recently found myself saying, you know what? I can't serve this community anymore. So I need to step away from that, because if I wasn't feeling comfortable because I couldn't serve it, because my heart wasn't in it, and I needed to say no to that. I needed to say, no, I can't. It will be happy. I need to step away from that. Whatever that might be, and learning to say no. I mean, the other thing too is another thing. And I think women are more like this. Well, where do you want to go to dinner? I don't know, wherever you want. When you really want to go to that Italian restaurant, that's your favorite restaurant. I don't know. Where do you want to go? McDonald's. Okay. Well, what does that do to your soul? And talking about energy. And you're not honoring yourself. And when you're not honoring yourself, you're not honoring your partner or your friend or whoever it is on the other side. So learning to really honor yourself and saying, if somebody says, hey, where do you want to go to dinner? And allowing yourself to say, knowing that you are worthy and deserving of saying, you know what, I want to go to my favorite Italian restaurant. How does that sound to you? Cool, let's do that. And when you step into understanding that vibrational energy of taking care of this makes all your cells happy, it's a whole different world. And it creates health on every level of your environment, mentally, physically, spiritually, morally, financially, blah, 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 on this plane and on all 7 bodies that we have. And it's a matter of saying, you know what, I need to learn to honor what's going on in here so that I can have health, so that I can take care of my clients, so that I can do the things that God wants me to do. Because if I'm not taking care of this temple, nobody else is going to take care of it. And that's by simply really being in tune with what am I feeling? Do you want to go to the movies tonight? no, I really want to stay home and just read a book. Don't take it personally. That's what I want to do. And learning to honor this. Because when you honor this, you're giving everybody else permission to honor themselves. And some people don't like that. but when you honor yourself, your cells are happy, you're running on higher octane, and life is just joyful. And that joy carries you through those dark nights of the soul.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think, like, you know, when you were talking about where do I really want to go? Is it that fancy Italian restaurant, or, you know, kind of just going, well, we'll just go to McDonald's. It's kind of like when you were talking earlier about going through walls, and your vibration has to match the frequency of the wall in order to go through the wall possibly. It's just like your vibration has to match that Italian restaurant in some way, in some fashion, to get there. Right? And it's like,
Yeah.
where do you want your energy? Where do you want your vibration?
Right. And some people don't vibrate there. They don't understand that they need to be in tune with that so that vibration can stay high and healthy. Because when you say yes, your body says yes. When you say no, your body says no. No. And I don't mean saying no when you're like, no, I don't want to go out tonight. I want to stay home and I want to read a book. Not that kind of no. But when you're saying no to what really serves your good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, that's like full circle too, with understanding how the body and the mind are really one. Yes, like, you know, the body is a vessel, but it's like linked up directly to our spirit. And so they work as one. Even though the spirit is eternal and the body is temporary, they work as one. And, you know, like our spiritual work, sometimes it's like, how do we transcend the body? How do we transcend the body? It's like, no, we've been given the mission of the body, working with the body.
Yeah.
How is that shown up for you in your life, with understanding how to work with the body, honor the body?
The first thing that comes to mind is when I go to my chiropractor, I'm like, this is out, this is out, this is out, this needs to be adjusted. It's amazing that and that's like, because I know my body, I'm in tune with my body. This is my temple. I need to know what's going on. And it's like, my neck's out, then they just know. And they're like, you just know your body. And it's like, yeah, I do know my body. And I try to know my body. I'm sure there's always more to know about it, but I really try to listen what's going on in here so that I can serve, because we're only given this temple. It's what we're born with. It's the only thing we've got, why we're here on this earth plane, it's the only permanent thing. Our shoes change, our clothes change, but the body changes, but the body is with us. And it's our vehicle. So, you know, you change the oil in your car and you check the tires to make sure that, you know, you're not going to blow a tire. You're making sure you're always putting gas in the car. That's the food we eat. Make sure you take care of your eyes because it's your headlights. And so you need to be aware of, this is your vehicle and how are you taking care of it? And I don't know. It was in 6th grade. And my dear friend Sheila and we were playing tug of war, and there were big dividers in the rooms. It was the 5th grade classroom, and there were dividers, and you could open them up and close them. They were on those screens. And so she and I, at the end of the day, were playing tug of war, and we had to pull our knees over the runners. And I know who it was, but some smart ass boy thought he was being cute. And I weighed all of like 86 pounds back then, pushed all these doors at me, and it squished my knee.
Oh, no.
I literally fell over, and I hobbled home, and I said, Dad, there's something wrong with my knee. I got squished at school. They may have even called my parents, and they may have came pick me up at school. I'm not sure. We went and did an x-ray. And ever since that point, and it's really funny because the doctor said to me, don't worry about your knee. You're a girl. You're just going to be pregnant and having kids.
Wait, he said that to you?
Literally, that was said. My dad didn't say that to me. The doctor yeah, he said it to the wrong person, right? So from that point on, I became very aware of what was going on in my knee. And so that made me more aware of my body and with my knee and stuff. And so for years, people were like, oh, it's a girl, you're different. So you know, I worked through it, and I worked through it, and I worked through it. Finally, I had major reconstructive knee surgery.
Wow.
That purpose, that time when you asked, I can look back on my life and say, that's when I became more aware of what was going on in my body and in treating my body. And it's just grown from that, because you understand when you do this work, this is your temple. And to hopefully, you know, and I've learned you are what you eat. I don't have the best diet, but I try to, you know, trying to drink lots of water and just keeping your body fluid and, you know, putting in your body, because we are what we eat, and that's what fuels our body. Are you going to put, you know, diesel gas in your electric car? No, it wouldn't work. You could blow the thing up. So just be careful of what we put in our bodies, and trying to be aware with that. But it was that particular moment in time, I think I became very aware of what was going on in my body, because I had to.
My goodness. Yes. Gosh. Wow. So like the doctor, it's interesting. Yeah. Cause it's like, we are the ones that take care of ourselves, you know, the best, and we really have to know thyself. So the doctor, there was a problem. The doctor just overlooked it, cause he's just like, whatever, you'll be fine.
Well, yeah, they didn't do, I ended up being in a cast for a while, not in a, I don't think I was in a cast. I wasn't, they wrapped my knee. At the time they didn't, you know, the torn ligaments, at the time the ligaments were torn. I know, looking back on how it happened, it was really like a football accident, because it was hit from my right side. So I just knew that I needed to take care of my knee, and with my dad's help in terms of doing the exercise. And so he put me on exercise and did the things that needed to be done until I could get to somebody who was a little more open to a non-athletic female who wasn't a pro athlete needing the right care. And, you know, over time, the medical field got more open to treating women the same as they treated men in terms of medical care for athletes.
Absolutely. Gosh. Yeah. Like the fact that there's just like that divide of even just care for, it's like, whoa, but it was real. Fiona says, this will sound strange, but I'm going through a really rough time at the moment, but I'm happy. I'm so happy inside because I started looking after me. That's huge.
That's why, yes. And so my response to her is, maybe that's why you're going through a hard time, to learn that you are the most important person. And Fiona's got to take care of Fiona. And Fiona, nobody deserves your love more than you, sweetheart. Nobody deserves your love more than you. So continue to honor yourself, because when you honor yourself, the universe is going to honor you. And the more you honor yourself, like Kelly was saying at the beginning, when you step out there, or like in Indiana Jones, when you step out in faith and love yourself and just pull up yourself from big girl panties and know, you've got this, the universe is going to give you everything you need to continue on that path, to make your soul shine, and to be the beautiful person that you are. So stay the course, girlfriend, and know you've got this, and the universe has got you. Just don't try to push through it, but just continue to be the strong you, and give yourself your commitment to love yourself in whatever way that looks, that makes you happy, whether it's taking a bubble bath or whether it's riding your bike 50 miles, whatever your heart says yes, and you're not hurting anybody else, go for it. Congratulations.
I like that. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying congratulations to Fiona.
Congratulations, Fiona. I love that, like, metaphor. The universe has energy of like big girl panties. You know what I mean? Like, put on your big old girl panties, because you know, that's the energy of the universe. Stuff like that. Heck yeah, rock it. We're growing up, we're evolving. Let's do it, right? Let's do it. Right. And she's looking after herself. That's the one-way ticket to evolving. That's for sure. Casey says, how do you help those low vibrating individuals if you are in a high vibration? Does that mean we have to lower our R's to help pull them out?
Only if you want to. But so there's a law of resonance and law of frequency. You're either going to have to lower your resonance to match them, or they're going to have to raise theirs to match yours. And it's like a tennis match. Do you want to be better at what you do? Are you going to play with somebody that's not as good as you? You want to play with somebody better. So you want to play with people that have a higher vibration than you, or you want to stay in your high vibration to pull them up. It might take some little adjustment to pull them up. Depends on how much you love this person.
And it takes a dance, I think. It's, you're dancing.
The other thing you've got to be careful of is if you lower your vibration too much, you can cause your body to get sick. So you've got to be really careful of that. It's a fine balance. But remember, it's a law of frequency and a law of resonance. If you stay high, they're either going to leave your vibration or they're going to have to raise theirs. They're going to have to turn up their frequency. They're going to have to raise their vibration to match you, or they're not going to be able to survive. That's a real important part to look at you in terms of how much, where do you want to go, and why do you want to do it? And really, soul search is this your soul's purpose to help raise that person? But it doesn't mean you can't go down and say, hey, it's really much more fun up here. We all live by example. So be a good example and have them follow your example. Hopefully that helps answer your question, hon.
I think it helps. I think it helps a lot. I think, you're talking about you either, keep your vibration high and they match you, or you lower your vibration. I think that's what's going on, whether we're conscious of it or not conscious of it. Sometimes we're like, I'm going to stick to my guns and I'm going to be this. And, I'm going to make them see, or I'm going to help them. And then we've reached our limit. And what happens is we fall to the vibration that's strongest in the room, because maybe their stubbornness is the strongest vibration of the room of, I don't believe in this. I'm not going to listen to you. I don't care what you have to say. And then you default to the strongest vibration. So it's whatever that intensity is, whether it's the intensity of the low vibration or the intensity of the high vibration.
Right.
And I do think within the universe, it's it's like infinite energy, and the cup runneth over, right? So there's always more than enough. And so if there's a way for you to tap into source to keep your energy up while you're dealing with the resistance of someone around you. And again, you have to honor their free will. You have to honor their free will.
Yes, you do honor their free will.
And I think that's sometimes why our energy gets tapped out, because someone's like, I'm not ready. I don't see it. And it's just it will happen as long as you keep your energy high for good intention and you're on your path. That spark ignites their spark, and it might ignite in a way that you're not used to seeing, but things in their life from your positive energy will transfer over into their life with receiving positive energy. And so I think always it's a matter of time. And sometimes results are wow, I'm really affecting someone's life, or wow, they're really open to it. Right. Wow, my good vibes are working. And other times it's just you might not see it for 5 years.
Yeah. You might not even see it in this lifetime. And that's you have to trust. And we're all put in each other's lives for a reason. We may not understand what it is. And I truly believe everything happens for a reason, but really, sometimes it's really,
Really? So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I know it's happening for a reason, but really?
This is a head scratcher. You want me to do this? What? And it's just I think one of the most powerful things, and Maria Celeste mentioned this too, is sometimes you just have to walk away, because sometimes you put so much pressure on wanting to make things better because your love and your awareness of how things are, let's say, maybe toxic, or they're hurting themselves, or it could be easier for themselves, just like it could have been easier for you if you learned things quicker or sooner, or you healed or loved yourself in a certain way that you have this aha awareness in. But what happens is that pressure, they can feel that pressure that is on them to change, because their vibration is here and your vibration is here, and you're like, come meet me. And then they literally have to have a rocket pushing them up. That is uncomfortable. Yeah. That is super uncomfortable. A normal person would fight that. Like, you know, like, well, what's happening? Why would I want to do that? That feels awful. Why would I want to do that?
The other thing too, Kelly, that's really important is we all have our own path. And we may think this is where I think your path should be, but that may not be where their soul needs their lesson. So sometimes, like you said, we just need to back off and say, you know what? I need to respect your journey. Your journey is different than my journey. And you respect my journey, and I'll respect your journey, and I'll love and bless you on your journey. And I'm here if you ever need me, but I need to let you be on your journey. And I teach that to my family. And it's like, you know, we all have our different journeys. We all have our different experiences, because each of us, although we come from the same source, we're all unique in our uniqueness. And we all have different lessons to learn. Might be same lessons, but different experiences are going to get us there. And we need to respect each other's journey. And if I try to push you on my path, I may be pushing you away from your soul's journey.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Just because it's, you know, the most important thing in another person's life, and it could be the most holy, sacred thing and the most positive thing, and you're like, do this, be this, like, have this. It could be, even though it is beautiful and sweet and kind and loving, that's not what that person needs to offset, you know, the journey of their life, as strange as that concept might sound, right?
And as difficult as it is, because we all like to control, and as difficult as it is to say, you know what, I can't control this issue, you need to be on your journey's path. That's not easy for us, because we're mostly control freaks.
We are. Yeah. There's a part of that. I think, like, it's funny. I think that's like a topic in itself, because I think, like, when people are on their spiritual path, awakened, they feel strong within who they are. You know, there's a certain amount of focus and intent that has to be mastered or utilized with your energy. And so, since you're so, like, right, like, I have to lock in, or I have to, you know, I have to be focused, I have to be aligned. You do that discipline can almost feel like that rigidness of, like, it has to be like this sometimes.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful.
Yeah. You gotta be careful.
You say you gotta be careful?
You gotta be careful. Yeah. So that in that focus and in that discipline and in that walking that narrow beam, you are open to the path of that narrow beam without trying to dictate where that path is going to go, but still be on the beam.
Right, that energy beam. I want to give you some validation. Fiona was saying, wow, I always say, right, time to pull up my big girl pants. Oh.
Yeah.
So you get, you just were right in there. And then Kevin is saying, channel high love energy from source, channel high vibrational love energy from source to others, transmute energy to a high vibe.
Amen.
And yeah, that's amen. Just keep, you know, keep adding to that high vibration, and everything just kind of falls into place, right? Eventually everything will fall. It might take, you know, 50 billion years, but everything will fall into place.
It's all divine order.
All divine order.
Following it or not following it, it's there.
That's there. Right.
Yeah.
And it's funny to think about, because it's like, we don't know ultimately what the progression of the universe or, you know, the divine plan is, because it could be beyond Earth. It could be, right, you know, like, all in everything's in order, in divine time. So if I may, I go talking from the universe and divine order to asking you a question about, where can people come find you? Spiraling back into
back here. So they can find me at www.centerforcreativehealing.com, and it's the number 4. So it's www.centerforcreativehealing.com. Or you can find me on Facebook at Maria Celeste Provenzano Cook. I'm not Hopi. because my name's Maria Celeste, but then people that I went to high school with didn't know who I was. So it's Provenzano, and my husband's name is Cook. So all of the above, Maria Celeste Provenzano Cook. Those are the two places that you can find me.
Do you have any events or classes or sessions that people can work with you once they find you with?
Yeah, there's a place on, they can look at the different services I have on Facebook, and then, or not on Facebook, on my website. Right now I'm teaching a mediumship mentorship program, but that's just 10 people because I wanted to work with them intently and personally. So that's closed. I don't have any classes scheduled. I do have some shows coming up. There's one in Detroit, in the first weekend in October in Detroit. And then there's one, because we sell crystals and minerals. So if you find me on Facebook, you can, I'll let you know what all the shows are, because I don't keep them up here.
There's a lot going on. And
if there's anything that you see or you need, you just, message me, and hopefully we, however I can help you. I'm here to help.
I always give the guests the last word. So is there anything that you would like to leave the audience, a message of wisdom or truth or something just coming through you?
Allow yourself to be authentic to you, because your authentic self is what's going to serve your highest and greatest good and quicken your soul. And while you serve your highest and greatest good, you will be serving your highest creator by serving your authentic self. So always make sure that you understand that nobody deserves your love more than you, and take care of you, because you were put here for a reason, and your reason is very important to the universe. And make sure you shine your light bright, and know you are very loved.
Kisses back. Thank you so much, Maria Celeste, for being here today. Always love having you and talking with you. With that said, everybody, go with love, luck, light, and don't forget to live. Thank you, and see you next week.
Beautiful, Kelly. Thanks.